So what I'll do, I am recording this, just to let you guys know. So we're going to jump into it. And the first discussion question we have for today for our MLK chat for today, because this day is Martin Luther King Day. And I was on a great live earlier, um, and it was beautiful. A lot of things have been beautiful today. It's really been inspirational, and it made me see things in a brighter light than I thought ever before. So we're just gonna jump right into it. Basically, we have a good amount of time. I mean, there kind of isn't a time limit. We're just having this discussion because this discussion needs to happen, right? And we all need to be included, and it's for everybody. It's not just we're not pinpointing who it's for, because that's not what it was about. Martin Luther King did not pinpoint who the message needed to be heard about, right? And heard too, excuse me. So that's why this makes it all the important. So I'm gonna start off, and we're just gonna go around. So we're gonna start off with London, since you're the first person on my screen. So talk about a Black leader who inspired you, London.
All righty. First of all, thank you for having me. And I think it's really important. One of my biggest pet peeves during the whole course of everything is the division amongst organizations. And, some people like to have power control, others like to be seen. People want their names on platforms and things like that. And I think one of the things that I like about or appreciate about Community Matters, Elevate 518, and certain individuals around, including Mother Lamia, how you doing? I appreciate this platform because I think that we can only do it together. Everybody has this misconception that, one person has, the key or the ticket or the way out. And that's a lie. As a strong Black woman, I can tell you that's a lie. I need you just like you need me. So definitely want to start out by saying that I appreciate this discussion and the continuous work that you guys are doing out here in the community. So who inspires me? I chose Norma Chapman. She happens to be my aunt, but before she was my aunt, and she made this very clear, she is a Black leader. And she put that on the table right away. She happens to have the longest standing African-American youth organization here in the Capital District. Excuse my dogs in the background, they're nuts. Mm-hmm. She has her organization now is standing 26 years, Frank Chapman Institute. I don't know if any of you guys have heard it. A lot of the young people have come through that program with summer camps and all that kind of stuff. So at one point in time, for a long period of time, it was the only Black organization offering summer camp opportunities and after school programs. What inspires me about her, she's also county legislator, by the way. What inspires me about her is her resilience, her strength, her ability to create things out of nothing. We started out in church, and I would come back and forth from Brooklyn, and she would just make it happen. There's something about when she steps on the scene, the doors open up, the opportunities pour out. And I think not only was her spirit in check, but she was always very aware of what was happening in the community, what was needed, how they were going to attack it. And women like that are impressive. They are one of a kind. I think that a lot of us forget the power and the presence and the talent and the grace that we have in our own backyard. Sometimes, sometimes it might even be a cousin or a friend, but you don't always give them credit because you're like, oh, that's my cousin, that's nobody. Not realizing the authority that they walk in. She, to this day, it's weird because I just left her a little while ago having a meeting. Usually we actually lead the march today. So this was different for us. We've led the march, the Martin Luther King March, for the last 12 years. So it was kind of different to not do that today. And that's why we were together planning out some things. But she She pulls out of her own pocket to pour into the organization. She gets up at 2 o'clock in the morning if there's a need. She walks up and down the street 24/7, knocking on doors, making a way. And I have to thank her for every tool she's ever given me, from a young adult until now. She has definitely poured into my spirit what the right thing is to do. And you said something very important, Vakari, in the beginning, which was she was non-discriminatory. She did not leave anyone out. Just because we were fighting for Black lives and just because we were trying to save Black kids doesn't mean that the white ones got skipped over or that the Hispanics didn't get the same opportunity. And I'm so grateful for her leadership then, and I'm even more grateful now because I see what it has done. I see the result. I see the power. I see the authority. And she passed that torch on real cool, real smooth. And so, yeah, Norma Chapman, County Legislator Norma Chapman, if you ever have a chance, go ahead and follow Frank Chapman Memorial Institute on social media.
Thank you for that, London. And yes, I do actually know Miss Chapman. I met her as a young girl. So she is a very inspirational person. She really is. And she has blessed so many people. And I thank you for that. So the next person I'm going to ask the same question to will be Thomas from RAP, who is a Black leader that inspired you.
Thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate this space. I appreciate all of you and the work that I see you doing daily out there in the streets, in the hood, making sure that our people are okay, have what they need, community matters especially. Shout out to Sean Young for always sticking up for those who don't normally get spoken for. But the person who inspires me, I never actually got a chance to meet. And that would be Mujahid Fareed, who is one of the founders of RAP, who RAP is Release Aging People in Prison campaign, for those of you who don't know. And what is so inspiring about Mujahid is that he took what he saw as a problem and turned it into a statewide solution. And it's his principles that guide me and the work that RAP does on a daily basis, just the basic centric principle that every single life is redeemable and valuable. And it's hard to just pinpoint one person, especially an individual that you haven't had an opportunity to meet. And I'm not going to sit here and go down a list of individuals, but I will say that I think it's important for me, as it may be for other people, to take a little bit of everything that we see from the leaders who are out there and use it in the work that we do. I mean, I could take a little bit from Sean Young, a little bit from Vicari, a little bit from London Precise, and I don't know how many other people who are not on this call right now, and use it to highlight and uplift the work that I do on a daily basis. But as of right now, Mujahid is my compass, and I can't call him a mentor. The man who he passed the torch to, who is Jose Saldana, is now the director of RAP, is my most valuable mentor in the work that I do every day. But thank you.
Thank you for that, Thomas. To be honest with you, I have never met him, but anybody that I say that you don't meet, you never know. You should meet them. You know what I mean? Anybody you feel like you want to meet, you should meet them. You should see the person that they are, because you never know the communication, the type of worlds that you could be connected to. So I appreciate that. Mother Lamia, I'm gonna ask you the same question. Who is a Black leader that inspired you?
Grace and peace and good evening to everyone that's here today. It's so good to see everyone. A Black leader that has inspired me, I would have to say, will be my father, Elder Aiken. And the reason being is because from a very young age, he instilled and taught my sister and I the importance of community and that's what community actually looks like, and being able to and willing to sacrifice your needs to make sure that the needs of others are met. We was reared up in church. We was in church every single day, and I see my father just become such a selfless leader, always willing to give of himself and always giving back, and he still does that even until today. And I am who I am because of my father and my mother. They're a team, but my father really was really um, influential to me. Um, because he also taught me as growing up, it's okay to make mistakes, that you're not always going to get everything right. But if you go into things with a pure heart and a pure mind, um, and with good intentions, the outcome usually will be good. And he also taught me the importance of being accountable when you're doing this work. Um, and unifying with others, trying to unify with others to the best of your ability. And so I'm just appreciative of my dad, but not to be like, cliche. A leader that inspired me is everyone that's on this call this evening. I think what has transpired within the Capital District over the last year is something that's so amazing. The ability to have everyone come together, bring their strengths together, and really be about the community. And it takes me back often when I was growing up in Virginia. We had a church like on every corner. Mother London mentioned at the beginning of the call, you can have several different leaders. And those leaders all should be able to work together for a common cause. And so what I've seen transpire in the Capital District is a common cause, and people coming from the left, from the right, from the front, from the back. And we've all really been trying to put our best foot forward in the name of community, in the name of others. And that's just such a great thing. And so I'm really appreciative once again for the opportunity to be amongst all that's on this call this evening that's doing the work. So thank you for inspiring me still.
Thank you, Mother Lemmy. I really do appreciate that, and I appreciate your words always. So next we have up from Elevate 518, Miss Destiny Harris, who is a Black leader who inspired you.
Hi everyone, good evening. It's been a while since I've seen or spoken to many of you, but hello. For me to kind of piggyback off of what everyone else said before me is everyone within this movement, whether present or in the past, has inspired me. When we first started Elevate 518, we weren't sure where it came from. We didn't really call ourselves activists. We just said, hey, this is what we want to have change. And this is what we see that needs to be curated better within our community rather than have just be separated. We all need to make sure that when doing this work, we stay unified. And even when I'm having conversations either on the side at events or either during conversations like this, is the little pieces and bits that I take from every person that I speak to that I take back with me. And I realize, wow, this is something differently that I never thought of looking at that way. Or this is something that I just never thought to look at in this perspective. And when I speak, that's something I always keep in the back of my mind, like, hey, this is what's going on and this is what will lead me to my next step. So whether it's Marsha P. Johnson or Shirley Chisholm or anyone that is, like I said, whether in the past, all inspire me, from young and old, even the young kids that are coming up and have been joining us in the movement during the summertime in the Capital District. They inspire me as well because they see what's going on in our community. They see what's going on in their schools. And that pushes them as well to have these conversations with their teachers, have these conversations with their peers and let them know, hey, this is something that's not okay. Although I'm in such and such grade or I'm such and such years old, it doesn't matter. We see that things need to be changed. And I feel like what we're all doing now is definitely inspiring the generations that are looking up at us and as role models and mentors. It just helps build something within myself. And I feel like as a community as well, that each of us can speak on that just help build something, I want to say hope for the future, for what we would like to see.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you, Miss Destiny Harris. Next up, we have Mr. Sean Young from All of Us, who is a Black leader who inspired you.
Hey, so thank you first for welcoming me into this space. I am greatly appreciative to be here with you all. I'm sorry that I'm late. I had some tech issues that I just for over. I tried. I had to get on a different laptop. Whatever. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an update thing. But thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Um, I guess, for me, my answer is really similar to Destiny's. Like, there's so many, it's hard to name one. I do have some that stick out, but I'll mention you all, like right on the call right now. I've seen or heard about you all and some doing some work in the capital region over this past year, and you all continue to inspire me. And some of the darkest moments and most difficult times of this movement, and there's been a lot. There's been some difficult, times, like knowing that I have a community that's continuing to push and do the work has inspired me to continue on and do the work as well. I reach into the past to some of our elders, some of our ancestors like James Baldwin and W.E.B. Du Bois and Octavius Cato. And if you don't know who that is, you should. 19th century, there was an activist leadership coming out of South Carolina that was brilliant. That reached Pennsylvania. So and to hear Destiny mention Shirley Chisholm, right? I mean, literally, like that is an inspiration all in and of itself, because that's a name that not often you hear younger people know about. So yeah, so that's my answer. All of you all that are continuing to do the work inspire me, and of course, I rely on all of those that came before for all the intellect and heart, passion, and love that they put into this work, because this movement is going on since we got here. The struggle, this fight has been going on since we landed on these shores. And we are those next steps in that. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean. That is appreciated. Always, always, and much love. So I'm gonna go last. A Black leader who inspired me, I can truly say, my mentor and most of my family, the way that they feel I am, how I act in this moment, is Angela Davis. Angela Davis, when she was younger, because we all know she was into activism even at an early age, um, she basically, it wasn't all political about her until she had to make it political, until she had to see that, okay, I have to get political because these are the things that are happening, and these are the things that are happening because of politicians, because of what we're doing, because of whitewashing, because of a lot of other things. She was like, I mean, we have to do that. And that's how I kind of stepped into things, because I was like, well, I don't want to really make things political. And then I was like, but I have to. I didn't really see that at first. And then the way that she steps forward, the way that she has no fear, the way that she uses her demeanor, the way that she talked about things with such great value, and she didn't care about who thought what, even her own peers. She didn't care, as long as her voice is being heard, as long as she knew that what she was speaking was facts, and that was it. She couldn't care less about your color. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. And then also knowing about Angela Davis, knowing about how she did talk about how there was biracial children back in slavery days, like, we were just called something else. You know what I mean? And the things that she talked about, and how people always do pit biracial children in the middle marker and say that, we're not even on each side either. You know what I mean? We still have our own oppressors, and things like that going on. So I really do look up to Angela Davis a lot, because if it wasn't for her and it wasn't for my family members personally, I wouldn't know as much as I know about Black women in this Black history, or Black men as much as I know. Um, and that's a big thing for me as well. So that's who I truly do appreciate, that an activist, from the past. And, I think I see her and many other activists and every Black woman leader that we do have out here. Personally, we're not afraid to speak about what we know, and we're confident in our words. So I think that is very appreciated. All right. So the next discussion question I do have, um, I said like 3 or 4, depending on time. It's talked about the legacy of MLK. I mean, what does that legacy of MLK today mean to you? Like, how does his legacy live on for you? What brought you to the place that you're at now? And I'm going to start off this discussion with Thomas.
Today, for me, the legacy of MLK is it's his legacy is still burning and it's still real to this day, every single day. We still see the struggles and the fights from the height of the civil rights movement that we see to this day. And while we can't even attempt to possibly fill his shoes, it is on us to continue the work that he began doing in housing justice and in wage justice and in criminal justice, just the all prongs of the work that he started doing. Um, and it's very important, I believe, that his legacy of nonviolence also lives on through us. Dr. King, like me, didn't get to meet one who inspired him the most, which is Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi was assassinated when he was 19 years old. But he took his words and he took his vision for nonviolence and got a lot of work done. I mean, we know that there are different levels of justice or definitions of justice depending on who you are, where you live, and where you're from. We've seen that on January 6th in DC. And one of the things about his legacy that I believe that we must continue to uphold is the nonviolence and getting what we need through forms of civil disobedience and teaching and learning. And just uplifting one another. Yeah, I'm in that there.
Okay, thank you for that, Thomas. I appreciate that. I know I'm going out of order because I like doing that, of course. So, Mother Lamia, talk about the legacy of MLK today for you.
Legacy for me that really sticks with me today about Martin Luther King Jr. Was his ability to bring like-minded individuals together and to share. I don't want to say spotlight because Martin Luther King didn't do it for the spotlight, but share the stage. He had, for those that are familiar with the start of how he became the voice, he had people from different factors within the movement that totally some were believed in nonviolence, others believed in violence, but those individuals were right beside him. And so it was this idea of when he says, "I have a dream," his dream was all encompassing. It wasn't just from I have a dream and it's going to be this way, but he allowed others to be a part of that dream. And the way how he set himself up and set others up, it allows us today to be able to stand on those individual shoulders. We just lost Elijah Cummings last year. He was an individual that was a part of the civil rights movement, even until his last dying breath. He was still active. He went to DC and stood on the Black Lives Matters plaza there in DC with the activists that we have today. You know, he was still there and he was an individual. So I really appreciate Martin Luther King's ability to pick out leadership. I also really appreciate his ability to be able to see a problem, but not only see a problem, but have a solution for the problem and invite others to the table to bring about a solution for the problem. And that is racial injustice and economic inequality that we still see today. But because he dreamed, that allows us to continue to dream today. And I know many of us on this call tonight, we also have a dream. And we're seeing that come together by coming together in unity and being diplomatic about what it is that we're trying to accomplish for the greater good. So that's the legacy that I feel that I hold on from Martin Luther King today, is being optimistic in the face of adversity, and never giving up, never weighing to the left nor to the right, but just having that tunnel vision, you know, and saying, you know, we will get through together on the other side.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you a lot for that. The next person I'm gonna have a go next, tell about the legacy of MLK today for you is Mr. Sean Young from All of Us.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I guess the question, begs another question: is which legacy do you mean? Because in all actuality, you have the legacy of Dr. King that's been told to us, that, in my opinion, is very whitewashed, sanitized, and then you have who King actually was. I'll tell you what, when and so my first like really introduction to King and like the real sense of who he was when I read the letter to the Birmingham jail, letter from a Birmingham jail. The power of that letter, the brilliance, and the way he articulated um, his issues with the white clergy, surrounding what was happening in the times. To me, it just spoke so much volumes to me. The depth of his mind. I mean, you realize he wrote that sitting in a jail cell. Like he didn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't like he was at a desk and he was comfortable, he was chilling. Like he wrote that sitting in a jail cell. And when I think of his legacy, I think of that. I also think of the "I Have a Dream" speech. Who we hear about the "I have a dream" part, where we can all live together and come together as one, in some senses, but it leaves out, his talk about police brutality, right? It leaves out a lot of his speeches around ending the war and how we're spending all this money to do these things, but ignoring the poor and how that's an attack on the poor. Like it leaves out so much, the history that we get, and that's the legacy. When I think of King, I think of the radical version of King, which was actually who he was. He wasn't the sanitized version that we often get. He had so many different layers to him, and the idea of the legacy of nonviolence to me has always been a little problematic, in some senses. I'm not to advocate for violence, obviously, and I hate to even have to say it because it's not about advocating for violence, but it's just understanding what you're up against. And like one tactic may not always work in every situation. There's a response from James Baldwin about this. He's like, yo, I know that despite my feelings about nonviolence, that I'm actually not nonviolent, because if someone is attempting to take my life and to kill me, I'm going to necessarily try to take their life and to kill them to stop them from doing so, right? There's levels to this, right? There's layers to it. And once again, it's not about advocating for Biden, but understanding what's needed in this particular circumstance. And I think that as a community, we continue to revisit that. I hate to say, like, you see what they call violence in the street. They call us marching up the street violence, right? They call us yelling and screaming violent. They call us stopping traffic, all last summer as a violent act. So, to those that are upholders of white supremacy and the systems and structures in place, anything we do to shoot that down is violent to them. So what does that actually mean for us moving forward in King's legacy? I think it's that, I guess, as those that are continuing to fight in his name and all those that have lost, that we don't just take, for instance, the version that's been sold to us, and really sanitized, the Disneyland version of Martin Luther King, but we actually dig deep into the work that he and so many others did around him, including Coretta Scott, who we don't hear a lot about, but who was a great supporter and was pivotal in so many decisions that he actually made. That we take all that seriously and we find out, what it is that worked then and what can work now, because what worked in necessary in 65 ain't going to work in 2021, right? So we need to figure out what that is and then move forward. So that's the legacy for me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm gonna go real quick because, like I said, I'm not going in order. There's really no order. The legacy of today for MLK today means I think about what most people are saying now, the radical Dr. Martin Luther King, about how I can say it so many times today because I've heard it so many times today, and I've heard it in everywhere that I've known, is actually going up there and getting our checks, going where we need to go, making sure that we don't come home empty-handed, making sure that, we don't go nowhere until we have that conversation about poverty, about our healthcare system, about these things, and like you said, Sean, just us occupying a space for 24 hours, if not more, they consider that, a problem. We're the problem, and that's not right. But Dr. Martin Luther King made it sure that no, we have to go and collect our checks. We have to make sure that these things don't happen. We take care of each other. And anytime that we have expressed that throughout this summer, it's always been a problem. And that's what it really comes down to. And that's what that day means to me. It's just like, for me personally, it's like, I think about, what can I do more? If this is not working, how can I make it to where it's not an extremist idea, but it's something that I can do more than what I'm doing now, that will have a better imprint of letting them know that I'm not playing, letting them know that I come here, and granted, it may be peaceful. Because like we all know, Dr. King was a very calm and peaceful man on the outside, but not the inside. You know what I mean? He meant business. You know what I mean? But his demeanor was just so strong that you looked into that man's eyes, you could see the fury that he wanted. He wanted priority to be done with. He wanted healthcare to be, and he didn't just say it. He wanted it done across the board. It wasn't just, just Black people in general, but he wanted it done in all minority areas. He wanted no poverty. Because we should not have to go through that in America. We should not have to go through no healthcare system that isn't free. He wanted these things because these are the things that the people needed. And that's not just saying that's the only thing people needed. You know what I mean? But he made sure that, he took what he needed at that time, and he talked about it. It wasn't saying that was the only thing he talked about. A lot of us can go back into pages and pages of history, to see all the things that he talked about while he was on this earth, and still the things that he talks about today through photos, videos, books. But that's the thing for me. It makes me think more about what I need to do, and especially how can I make that imprint that needs to be imprinted. So next we're gonna go to London J. Precise. What does what does the legacy of today mean to you?
So that man was he was a smooth talker. He was a player system. And I appreciated that about him, because I think what it takes to really transform people's mind and get them in the right space and pull them on board is to just be real. I think you got to be who you are at all times. And he set the tone for transformation through being honest. And another thing is that he knew how to play the game. That's very important when you're trying to make moves. A lot of people criticize me to this day because, I don't scream loud enough, or I'm not showing my face enough, or whatever specific thing somebody might have an issue of that I'm not doing right for the movement, which I find funny because I know how to play the game. I've been in this a long time. I know how to play the game. And so I'm doing just that. And I take notes from him. I take notes from other historians, other and leaders who have literally broken barriers and destroyed roadblocks in order to not make a statement, but get a result. It is far more important for the result. I'm not here, to make a statement. I don't need your specific pat on the back or anything like that. I don't need your recognition. I need the result. And I think that in his daily walk of life, in his monumental moments, it was about the result. One thing that I also like about him and his legacy and what I feel that a lot of us can relate to is he was such a young man. He didn't have that elderly wisdom quite yet. That didn't happen yet. He didn't have an opportunity for that to sink in. And so I think that he is such a great example for young people to not, you see, let me backtrack a little bit. I know we've all heard this before. You know, I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to put you on so you don't have to go down that road. And then the young person's response is like, oh, but I need to experience it for myself, you know, whether it be, oh, don't go sleep with that boy, or don't go out and drink, or whatever it might be. And it's like, no, I need to experience that for myself. I hear you telling me, no, don't do this all the time. And individuals like King were making those movements so we didn't have to go through certain situations, so we could follow suit, so we could take over the mantle, understand what exactly was happening, and get in line. Somewhere that gets lost in translation, and you know, we end up back here in a circle. And I feel that that happens because sometimes we're not listening, we're not really paying attention. And then some of it is not our fault that, you know, until we get to a certain age to actually do some research for ourselves, we're not taught those things. We might be taught them within our own church or our own families, and we can sit down and have those discussions, you know, but there's no Black history in school. We're not visiting those topics. And so I think that his legacy, to me, if you paid close attention, there were many moments that bridged the gap from their present to our future. And I think that as leaders, you know, a lot of his doctrine, a lot of his tactics, if we could just embrace, we'll bridge that gap. I have so much more to say. I'm trying to, you know, I talk a lot, so I'm trying to keep it short.
Thank you, London. I appreciate your words. Trust me, I know. If we had years, times, and days, we'll be here. All them. Trust me, we know. Our next speaker, Miss Destiny Harris from Elevate 518. What does the legacy of MLK today mean to you?
For me, Martin Luther King's legacy is everlasting, as we see today, with myself being very young in this movement, and a lot of people looking at myself and many other people in the movement that are young themselves and saying, you should be focused on something else. This is not something you want to fight for, or do you know that you could lose your life, and so on and so forth. And I feel like his ability to know that, listen, my life is on the line, yes, but these demands need to be met for my people to proceed in the future, or for people of color in society in general in America to succeed and live in equality. And that just speaks volumes to me. And with his ability to also stand up there on the podium and speak the way he spoke, and let people know, like you said, Bakari, he meant business. And that's what we are doing today. We're coming to these politicians and mayors and governors and whoever else with these demands, and this needs to be met, regardless of how old we are, regardless of sex, gender, whatever. We're standing up here and we're letting you know this is what needs to be met, and we mean business. And the fact that things are, that things came back in full circle to the point where in 2021, we're still doing it to this day, it says a lot. We've made progress since he was alive, yes, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. And with us embracing who he was, and not only him, but everyone else that was in the civil rights movement who either had their name in the spotlight or not, that still did the work, we know, sorry, I'm blanking out. Blanking out here, sorry. But like I was saying, his legacy definitely means a lot. And in the schools, it needs to be taught more of the radical Dr. Martin Luther King, rather than the whitewashed, oh, it was just nonviolent and I have a dream and we left at that. No, it was way more than that. Way more than that. We need to be taught, and our children need to be learning and taken into this knowledge, because I feel like that will also play a part in their activism today. It can also change their mindset on how they address things, rather than just pulling up and either spazzing out or just yelling and cussing and going on. There's a way to go about things as well. And you holding yourself accountable and holding yourself with that kind of just stature, people will respect you. Rather they're gonna take it or just be like, oh, whatever, it's going in one ear and out the other. They're gonna respect you and then see like this person means business, and they'll take it for what it is.
I appreciate that. And you're right. Like we hear about all the radical stuff that Christopher Columbus did or whoever else did. And you know what I mean, about these different origins and different religions and what they went through to get where they are and their progression, right? But you don't hear about that about Black people. I think they touch on it a little bit and maybe in high school, you know, not unless you're taking African American studies when you're in college, you don't hear about it. That's the reality of it all, right? So I appreciate that, Destiny. Thank you. So our next discussion question is, what does nonviolence and social change mean to you today? What does that mean? Like, how do you interpret that? What does nonviolence and social change mean to you today? Like, how do you feel about that? Sean, let's start off with you.
Wow, how does nonviolence and more time, just so I'm clear. Say it one more time, just so I answer.
How does nonviolence and social change mean? If I can get myself together, how does nonviolence and social change mean to you today? What do those things mean to you? Nonviolence and social change. Sorry.
Oh man, so social change. I'll start there before I get to the nonviolence, because I spoke a little bit about that already. And I had some more I wanted to say about King and his legacy, but I guess thinking about social change, I think you have to think about what we're actually up against. And I guess I can tie that to what I was going to say about King and just was up against. I mean, the entire system came after him. I mean, the federal Hoover, all his agents and the recordings and following him, and then the campaign, not just do that, but to tear down his character publicly, right, through certain media outlets and all of that. Like, that's a significant, the state body coming after you in that way, the power that they're able to wield up against you, in the name of the society that we're trying to change. Like, that's a significant battle that King and others were in, because it wasn't just King. Obviously, it was so many others that were involved, but that's a significant battle. So thinking about what does that mean, thinking about social change, like it's the heart and minds of the community, it's the heart and minds of the people, and getting them like I guess to buy into the arguments and the statements and to our humanity. I guess that's the better way to put it. And I hate to even put it in those terms, but that's the reality. To put down those stories, the myths that they've said about Black people in this country, from day one, to put all that down and pick up the idea that we're human too, that we deserve these things too. All the justifications that have been used against our community since day one to put us in this permanent place of like this perpetual harm and trauma and then acting as if we actually deserve that. Like, social change to me means ending all of that, right? And then acknowledging that. And so I guess the first step is acknowledging it. Acknowledging that these things have actually happened. But I'm at the point right now, and I'm telling you, I shake my head at it sometimes, because despite the discussion that we're having today, and the knowledge that everyone brings to the table, and the folks that were able to reach with these conversations, and the many folks we've seen in the street who have heard the words and seen it, despite that, there's a very large community out there, 70 plus million people voted for Donald Trump, right, who continue to ignore our humanity, I guess is the best way to put it, continue to ignore what's been happening in this country so long. So social change for me, it means changing all of that. And that doesn't happen overnight. I can't stop. I'm not in this work to end everyone's ideas of racism. I'm in here to make sure that the system structures begin to benefit my people, to benefit our community. I'm in it to do that, because changing somebody's mind, like I don't go down to counter protest and argue with white supremacists. Why would I ever do that? They're not there. They're not, those aren't the ones I'm trying to convince of anything. I'm just trying to change the system that in a way that I can hold them accountable for when they're killing our young boys in the street, when they underfund our schools and underfund our housing opportunities, don't give us economic opportunity in a way that most folks do get it in this country that don't look like us when they're white. So that's what social change means to me. And I might have rambled a little bit because it just is there's so much in that question that it's hard to capture it in the way I wanted to. So apologies if I didn't wasn't all that clear. And the nonviolent thing, nonviolence. So we often say like, you know, we loud, right? We loud, we scream, we march, we yell, we pound our feet, we pound our chests, we play our music, we dance in them streets, we on them bullhorns, we do all of that. And that's because, you know, when we say we nonviolent, don't mean we silent, right? But is that the method that'll always work? That's the question. Has it worked up to this point? I mean, who knows? Without, like, I think, yeah, the brother Thomas, you put something in the chat a second ago that I think was powerful. It was like, would Martin have? You don't think Martin would have been as successful without having those like Malcolm? You know what I mean? As a possibility as well, right? Without having the Black Panthers, without having all those other groups that were around at the time that were like, yo, we ain't having it. Like I ain't doing that. Like you come for me, I'm coming for you, type of thing. Like without that, would Martin have been successful? I think that's a really good question. And I'll end it there because I think I'm going too long. So that's my response to that.
Sean, you're fine. You weren't rambling. Trust me, it gets hard to get your thoughts together when you're thinking about a million things at once. I get it. I think we all get it on this discussion. All right. So the next we're going to have up is going to be Miss Destiny Harris from Elevate 518. What does nonviolence in social change mean to you today?
Nonviolence in social change. I feel like Sean was saying earlier, and I believe you said it as well, we marching up the street, that's deemed as violent. We're just yelling on a bullhorn in a park and just congregating, that's violent. So I feel like when we go out there with the intentions of just getting our voice heard on these social matters and making sure that the people that needs to hear it are hearing it rather than just paying attention to the other mess that's going on, that is nonviolent in its own already. But of course, we don't want things to get past that where it's like, okay, my life is in danger. The people that I'm with are in danger. I'm gonna have to protect myself. I'm gonna have to defend myself. Now that's something that's on our minds, especially the young activists, is okay. Most of us are like, no, I'm going to be violent regardless of what, because no one, you're threatening my life. I don't know what's going on. I'm in fear when I go outside because I'm an activist. So in this realm of social change that we are standing wholeheartedly in, I feel like sometimes it kind of can be hard to just say, okay, I'm just nonviolent, like, and we're just leaving it at that. Especially now as a young woman just walking down the street, it's all, or even if I have my Black Lives Matter mask on, whatever it may be, I'm immediately getting looks. So when you're looking at me kind of way, I'm looking at you like, are you going to do something? Are you going to call somebody on me so that they can harm me or do something to me? It's hard for me and I feel like many people may be able to relate to that. It's kind of, it can be a little hard to just say, okay, I'm not violent, and that's just what we're going to do for the social change. It's pretty difficult, but I believe that we have been achieving it, and we are capable of doing that. It's just the extra factors that come into it that kind of sometimes will force us to say, listen, we have to protect ourselves and we have to be prepared for whatever it may be, because there are people out there that just want to harm us, period, and that's just it. So we're doing it as best as we can.
Thank you, Destiny. I do believe that. I really do. So next we're gonna ask Mother Lamia, what does nonviolence and social change mean to you today?
nonviolence and social change for me tonight will mean putting a stop to the act that places Black and Brown communities of color at risk. Um, I just don't think about, physical altercation, but I think about what are instruments and tools that are being used to cause violence, to cause harm on Black and Brown communities, such as the lack of access to social and economic justice. And when we talk about, to bring it to like the violence thing, um, I think that we have become docile in the matter when it comes to that. Like, I think that we kind of misinterpret what the nonviolence meant. When we talk about Martin Luther King during that time, we also see during that time, that's when Black folks was getting the right to vote around 1969. And so their approach was different. They couldn't come in there, we already seen as aggressors. So they had to kind of have like a malleable approach. And Martin Luther King was that. And as the brother just said, I wonder would he have been successful had we not had the Malcolm X's and the other individuals. And what that shows is that the playing field that was there was orchestrated and set up so that we can be where we are today. But sometimes in order to keep what you have to protect it by force. And so it just hurts me that we still in 2021, we comfortably say, oh, it's okay to be nonviolent, but at what cost? When you're being nonviolent, yes, our adversary might not have a gun to our head. Might not be getting watered down in the streets anymore, but they're hitting us economically. They're hitting us still around education today. Our communities are still underserved and undesirable. We still have legislation and laws that are in place that are going to continue to be counterproductive to the advancement of Black and Brown people unless we take action. And sometimes that action might be deemed as a violent action, depending on whose perspective it is. But I feel we have to become more radical. And also, not radical physically, but radical in our thinking, radical in our solutions. And so that's what nonviolence and social change looks like today. Us, for those that say that we're awake, actually going back to the table and having a conversation. What are our next steps? And what I do like about one of the organizations that's present tonight, which is all of us, is that when they came out and it was like, this is the issue, but this is what we want done. They had that 13-step plan. Like, is this the tools, taking what you have and saying, okay, just not shouting and all that, because we did that. We had the 60s, we had the marches, and we're still doing that. But how do you get effective change? You have to, as Mother London said, play the game. And what game is that? The game looks different depending on what arena that you're in. And so us changing how we, I guess I want to say, camouflaging ourselves to get in these spaces around people and places and things that we can actually enact change. I think that's going to take a little bit, I don't want to use the word violence, but it's going to take a little bit of force. And I think that we're at a place that we can do that effectively. And something else that bothers me as it relates to, we saw what happened on January 6th in Washington. And we've seen throughout other protests that, our counterparts have done, they come up to these capitals, they have guns, they're armed. And so when we keep pushing to our brothers and sisters, nonviolence, turn the other cheek, but yet our adversaries have AK-47s, they have guns, they're showing up to places and they're not acting in violence, but what they're giving off is, okay, I'm not to mess with. I'm here about business. You know what I mean? And so I think that when it comes to that, we have to really explain to people what nonviolence means and how can we move forward with that if people want to be safe, but also begin to break away from that. And that's just my personal thought about the nonviolence thing, because it could be kind of tricky. But we're in different times now, and they did what they had to do back then in the 60s and 70s to get to the table. We're at the table, we're building tables, we are the table. And so I think that we have a little bit of wiggle room to change those rules and actually change the narrative of what it means to be nonviolent, because you can be prepared, have that readiness, but not actually, have that negative action associated to the word violence. Because what is violence? I mean, you denying me resources is an act of violence on my life, So what is it that we're talking about when it's violence? We just always automatically go to war, but there's so many other ways that we are being attacked violently while we're still sitting here saying, let's be nonviolent. So yeah, that's about it. I digress.
Thank you, Mother Mia. Thank you. And I totally agree upon that. And everybody has said everything that I was going to say. So I'm just going to spit my little 2 cents in. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean, the social change and what does nonviolence look like? We've been nonviolent, but what happened on January 6th was very violent, right? And people looked at that and people saw, well, how can you compare BLM to this action on the 6th? How can you do that? Because even when we were nonviolent, there was tanks, gas. Listen, sorry, there's just like the things that still play in my head from BLM movement first night all the way up to now. Okay, still haunts me. Okay, um, it's so it's not even funny. I'm so sensitive to smoke for a lots of reasons. You know what I mean? Because of the tear gas, because of the a lot of things. You know, but you know, we were very nonviolent. And that's what I'm saying. That's the social change. We asked for things, like we said, like with all of us with the 13 demands. It wasn't like we was just like, yo, we gonna burn this down. You know what I mean? We didn't say all that. They did that. You know, they did that. But we're at fault, you know. We didn't walk around with AK-47s or anything like that, you know, but we had tanks and all this other stuff. There wasn't even no military on the steps in Washington, D.C. Y'all opened the doors for them. So I think that's just the social change is that you putting the perspective of Black people are always wrong and we need to be locked up like caged animals. We need to change that because that's not the case. You know what I mean? And then we also need to change the thinking that of around social change about how Black people are treated in America. What history do you know? You know, a lot of people do not know about our history. And then what are we changing ourselves within ourselves that has to deal with the social change around us in our communities? You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of things that can be talked about around there that are nonviolent. You know what I mean? How we I always say this is that how we become leaders is how people see us, right? So we're doing that social change within ourselves and within our communities. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the social perspective of us will never change, it feels like. You know what I mean? So how can we, if I'm saying it right, how can we do that differently? You know what I mean? How does social change? How can we make change? Um, and then the whole thing of with nonviolence, like I think we've been very nonviolent, personally throughout this whole BLM movement. I don't think, regardless of the looting or whatever the case may be, but you know what? It's just like with any person. You mean when you get tired of the BS, sometimes you just the rage takes over you. You know what I mean? What do you expect? We're all human. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. But it's just like, you know, throughout the times that we have marched together, we have cried together, you know, we haven't been violent, you know. And I think too on the 6th, it showed how Black people are not as violent as you think we are. You know what I mean? Just the look, we sat back and even we were like, well, we knew there would be funerals if we did that. You know what I mean? We haven't been that violent. Just the social criteria of how we are, you know what I mean? That's just who it is. I think within this movement, we have made a lot of more social change, but we still have more work to go. We still have a lot of things to still do personally. And I don't know if I explained that right. Sometimes I don't. My words get a little mixy, but y'all know how I get sometimes. I can't always get my words together. So the next person we're gonna have to go is gonna be Thomas from Rap. What does nonviolence and social change mean to you today?
Nonviolence and social change means, first of all, it has its limitations. Um, you know, I will always up MLK and his legacy of nonviolence and civil disobedience. But I mean, even if we look at what happened just recently with the court cases in Troy, I mean, it was acts of civil disobedience. It was rental defense. An eviction is an act of violence, especially a mother with a child, someone who locks her, a landlord who locks her out of her home during an eviction moratorium is an act of violence on a level that, I mean, you might as well have backhanded her. I don't see anything different. Yet the individuals who did just a simple act of social disobedience and knelt in the parking lot are being prosecuted as criminals. I mean, every time I get pulled over and an armed officer walks up to my car, it's an act of violence. If my inspection sticker is wrong, why isn't that handled by the Department of Transportation? Why is there an armed officer with a loaded firearm walking up to my car? Anytime someone who's trans is walking down the street on the block and gets stopped by the police and arrested because they got condoms in their pocket, walking while trans, that is an act of violence. You are now putting that individual's name in the newspaper to where their employer is going to see it, and they could possibly lose their job, their home, and God knows what else. So, I mean, while the movement goes forward, and we have been doing our absolute fucking best at being nonviolent, but also not laying the fuck down for anybody. I think there might come a time when, you know, nonviolence within this movement is obsolete. And that scares me a lot. Because I know where it can go. And I mean, again, I look at, bring it back to January 6th, they beat the police to death with an American flag while flying the Blue Lives Matter flag in the background. Imagine if that was us. They would have leveled that building and had another one being built right now. There's gonna come a time, I hope it doesn't, to where nonviolence in this movement is no longer an option. But at the end of the day, I think that Black and brown people are going to get tired of being exterminated in the streets, are going to get tired of hearing about their family members drowning in their own phlegm in solitary confinement cells. I think that collectively, there's going to be a moment where everybody has fucking had enough. I pray it doesn't happen. And I'm not a religious individual. I guess I'm just sending my aura out into the universe and hoping the universe gives me what I asked for. But at a certain point, it's got to stop. You stop killing us or you don't stop killing us. But at some point, at the end of the day, there's nothing left to do. When your back is up against the wall, and we've gone through all the channels with legislation and asking and begging and crying and hoping, what's left?
Thank you.
That scares me.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. So after Miss London goes, we're gonna just just open the floor up for any like last minute discussions or last minute words that you guys want to say, and then we're gonna wrap it up for tonight. But as far as right now, London, what does nonviolence and social change mean to you today?
You guys pretty much hit it. Sean, you're right on target with a lot of what you're saying, and I can feel what you're feeling, which I appreciate. So a couple different things. We got to get our own community together. And I might get a little backlash for this, and that's perfectly fine. I'm able to handle it. I'm a big girl. Trans inclusion is still not clear. And I'm on the front line. I've been fighting for y'all for a long time. And when I say y'all, I mean all of my people, whether you are a leader yourself or you're just part of the movement. I've been fighting for y'all for a long time as a Black trans woman. And so has Mother Lamia and many others that I can name specifically in NYC. That has not become a part of the discussion yet still, really. Thank you, Thomas, for bringing up the Walking While Trans bill, because I haven't even, besides me speaking about that at T-Door, which is a Trans Day of Remembrance, and besides, you know, my girls that I know and things like that in that small circle, I haven't heard anything about that. Those are the issues. Just like economically, the issue is that your sister, and by sister, I just mean, you know, color, race, all that kind of thing, you know, is selling the same masks that Walmart is selling, or that, you know, Joanne uptown is selling. And for some strange reason, you find it more suitable to buy the Walmart mask instead of pouring into these Black-owned businesses. Same thing with education. You find it more important to make a statement amongst, and Sean, you said this, I'm not going down to counter protest. Exactly. Why? For what? Yes, I agree. Those people do need to change their format. They do need to be inclusive. They do need to stop the violence. They do need funds. I agree with all of that. But guess what? We're spending more time spewing out all of these things that they should do and not building up and including our own community. We're not taking the time and the patience, my shirt. We are not taking that extra moment to continue to educate and uplift our own people. That's how you're going to build your army. The more people you convict, that's a spiritual thing, not a legal thing. The more people you convict, the more people that you get on our team where they belong, because we're all in the same boat anyway. The bigger our army is, the more smart we can think. It's only but so much 6 of us can do. We have to continuously educate. We have to continuously include. We have to continuously pour our spirits out into our own people. Then at that time, when we look back and we see that Arbor Hill, South End, Pine Hills, when we see that and that's just to name a few, there's so many more obviously in the capital region, Troy, Schenectady, we see that we all finally are on the same page and we got it and we know what the common goal is, then we begin to sit at the table. Because see, yes, we've done the marching. And you know, I've only been to 6 total. You know why? Because when you're done marching, it's the day you're done marching, I'm sitting at the table to have the discussion. Because there has to, obviously, there's the next step. Mother Lamia, I think you spoke on that. It is important that we come together, that our efforts are not sporadic. That the intensity of this discussion that we're having right now and the appreciation that we've shared for each other, that it goes till tomorrow and the following week. That we band together and bring all of our organizations together and our followings to get on one accord. I made some notes while everyone was speaking. I'm sorry. Inmates. Y'all don't want to get me started. I'm a preacher at heart. Y'all. Some people just fall by the wayside. We forget. You know, I was always one to say, oh, I don't write jail letters. I don't care which one of my family members is going to jail. Like, I'm not a letter writer. You know, I'm beyond that. My mind is so scatterbrained. I couldn't even sit down and write a letter if I wanted to. And then my cousin got locked up a year and a half ago now for murdering his stepfather. He set his stepfather on fire because he was raping him for umpteen amount of years. And he kept trying to ask for help, ask for help, ask for help, and it was nothing. And then he finally had this reaction. Now, that's a bit of an extreme case because obviously there are a lot of our folks that are locked up with no true accusation, with no evidence, you know, who are unlawfully locked up, who are innocent, who shouldn't be in there, or who have served time for such a small crime. My situation that I'm bringing up is extreme, but the point is, I guarantee you there's no mental health restoration. I guarantee you there's no therapy. I guarantee you that, you know, the process in which he got there is not being addressed. So until we look out for our own people, you can preach and cry and scream and pick up that bullhorn and do all you want to. That's fine. But we could come right down here as, and Vakari, excuse me for not making it on Sunday. I had a last minute recording. You guys know I do shows and that's how I make my money. So congratulations to me for going, my video for going on RuPaul's website. But so I had to get that done Sunday, and I was down in the city recording. So I do apologize for not making it. But my point was, when we come down and pour out to our youth, whether it's through a clothing drive, whether it's through a book reading, whether it's through a speak out, I mean, whatever you want to do, we have to continue to pour into our own communities. We have to continue to build each other up, making sure that we're strong enough to fight the fight. Some people don't have it. Some people in our own communities still don't even have a clue as why they should vote. All of these things are tools for the fight. And so to me, change ain't gonna come socially, economically, whatever. It's not gonna come until we get ourselves together. And I will address the fact that the T is, we could have been violent. Lamia, you know me very well. We could have been, but I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that from one leader here or far. I haven't seen us be violent. Of course, that's what we're going to get labeled. Again, play the game. Of course, that's expected. Everyone's in shock about January 6th and they storming the cap. Are you really surprised? There is no way that you're shocked that those individuals got to walk away. Right. It was no surprise to me. I think that in our next steps, I'm a big fan of the youth. It's weird because I went from like always working with young kids to saying like, I'm never doing that again. They're so bad. I'm not doing kids. Like, no, it has to be young adults. And I'm kind of back where I started, but you know why? Is because obviously, as we always say, years prior to this, is that, you know, they're the ones who are going to be the future. And I'm not here to change someone's mind who is not with who has no openness to understand, no willingness to participate. I'm here to make an impression on young people so they know what's necessary. And I don't teach violence. I don't teach, you know, radical behavior, mostly because obviously I'm scared of the result that will come from their reaction. You know, I have 30 kids in my house and 11 of them are Black men. So as a parent, I'm very cautious of how I say move or, you know, what what they should do radically. I'm very careful on that. But me, I'm here for it. What's up?
Thank you, London. I do appreciate you. I always appreciate you. I appreciate all of you on this call. I really do. Like, I love that.
Lamia wanted to chime in real.
Oh, I'm making sure that I open up the floor for anything else.
I'm sorry.
So give me just a second. Go ahead, Mother Lamia, whenever you're ready.
I'm just gonna say thank you so much, Mother London, for saying that. But also with saying that we have to, when I said earlier about being prepared, when we talk about going out there and protest, I feel like this summer was kind of, we was there, and thank God everything went good for the most part. But also as a community, as Malone saying, coming together, we need to start putting resources together. In the event of, okay, so everyone's on the same page, on the same accord, we all go down, well, we all get arrested and we don't have no bill money.
Who gonna get us out?
Who can get us out? You know what I mean?
Right.
So when we're teaching and we have such an impressionable, because it was the younger ones that was out there this summer, like, yo, they was stopping traffic. I'm like, girl, I'm not about to get no front of no car, girl. You know, I love my community, but I'm not, girl, that's a lie. Okay. But these young people were so on fire. I mean, they were shutting down traffic in Schenectady, what they did at Bumpy's in Schenectady. I mean, they was just so like rah, rah, rah. Okay, thank God nothing terrible happened. But we as leaders, we have to ensure that they were going to be successful. And how can we do that? As the older we get, we have access to resources. We know where the resources come from. We know how to grab for those and put those in the correct places. So what I would like to see see from us as community leaders is more of coming together. And I'm gonna keep going back to when I was a child growing up in church. We had a church at every corner, and I was in church 7 days a week. You know why? Because those churches interacted with one another. It wasn't like, oh, I'm Bishop Juan down over here and I'm Bishop Tutu over here, and we're not going to do the work. We all had a common cause. And I just also want to put into the universe, when we talk about language, unity is a word that I feel is a white oppressive word. What is unity? The word that I like to share with my youth and people today is being diplomatic about the situation. When you're a diplomat for change, that means that you can come together at a table and everyone with a common cause, we're going to bring our strengths to bring that common cause into fruition. That's why we have ambassadors, because there's an interest that we as a community need to have, and that interest should be safeguarding ourselves, doing what other organizations have done in the past. These organizations that we have that's older, they all was at one point they were together. And they didn't have any qualms about being together because they saw there was a need and they came together to address that need. And now they do their own thing. And we are the leaders of today. And that's why I love when we have opportunities, whether it's Bakari, London, Sean, and Miss Jamaica, from all of us, Elevate 5118. Every time there's an event, I love to see, okay, you have an invite, you got to invite, you got to invite, making the space inclusive. And I think if we continue that throughout 2021 and don't get slack about that and be genuine and begin to sow into each other's ministries or lives, there have you. And we got to take away that, as Mother London said, it's just, this area is very, it's funny to me because I'm from New York City and from Virginia, and we had a sense, in those areas, there was a sense of community. You know, you had several mothers, several pastors, several businesses, several organizations. It wasn't, I feel like up here in this area, we have this space that it could only be one. And that's not the case. So I want to speak against that narrative and really ask that we all look at to one another and begin to sow in each other's lives. And sowing doesn't always have to be money. It can be showing up and volunteering. It can be sharing resources amongst one another, because we all have different access levels to information. So I might be in with some lawmakers. I'm gonna share it with Bacardi. I'm gonna share it with London, because one thing London said at the beginning of 2020, we had a conversation. She said, it's about the community, it's bigger. It's no longer about you and I. It's about the bigger community. We have reached to where we can reach in the community. Now it's time for us to give back. And we have missed that opportunity, that necessary opportunity that needed to be taken. You know, how can we live with ourselves? And so I'm just happy to see everyone stepping up. And I just want to encourage us to continue to support one another. Continue to support. And one way of supporting is showing up in spaces. That's a form of support. You might not agree, But like I said, we're dispelling, we're getting ready unity. Unity is, oh, we all agree, we're all the same. That's bullcrap. No, we're all different. We're all unique. So let's be diplomatic about it. This is my strength. That's your strength. That's your strength. This is the common cause. Let's get it done. I just wanted to leave that. Thank you, London, for sharing, because you brought that out of me to share.
Yes, thank you. And that's one thing that I think that, I mean, all of you know on this call, at least, that I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to say, I don't know. I'm not afraid to be like, can I get your help? You know what I mean? And that's a big problem within the community, which is very true. Alumnia, like nobody, I don't believe in this. There should be just one person. I never believed in that, because if I can support, I'm going to support the best way I can, even if it's just being like, you know what, I can be there. You know what I mean? I can't offer anything. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Because you never know what you could tell me at the end of the day. Like, Bakari, I got this person, this person, this person for you. Girl, just send me an email. You know what I mean? Whatever the case may be. So I appreciate you all. And like I said, any closing remarks, anything like that, else like that, from Sean, um, Thomas, or Destiny?
I think Thomas is on stack.
Yeah, I jumped in. I put a stack in the chat, but I'm gonna go ahead and jump in. Well, first of all, I want to +5 everything. Everything that Mother Lamia just said. I mean, just acknowledging the wisdom of the past, and as far as it should be applied to where we're going, is valuable. That's one. And be organized in the capital region has been hard over the summer. It's been hard for many different reasons. I mean, we're not going to address it all openly, but it's been hard. There were times when I was shaking my sign by myself. but the work got to get done at the end of the day. What I can say is that what hurts about me sometimes being out there and shaking the sign by myself is that a lot of times it was because that I've been what some might say is overly inclusive. I send them emails out to everybody. This ain't high school. Everybody's getting invited. I don't care if you don't like you and you don't like you, Vakari. I am like intentional. Rap has been intentional about being inclusive. Yo, this is what we need for Rap and Black Freedom Project. This is what we need. We need trans voices. This is a male dominated. It's too heavy. I don't need that right now. We do not want cisgender opinion on everything that we're asking for. And I got London's name. I got TS Candy. I got, I don't know if you did show up to the visioning session or not, London, but you were definitely invited. And I think that's what we have to do more of. Just be intentionally inclusive. Fuck who's popular. Fuck who's on top. Fuck who's in the news. No. This is about our people. This is about a struggle that's been going on for 400 fucking years. We are minuscule. We are minuscule. We are nothing. It's the fucking work. We need to get this work done. And I can't do it without you. All of you. All of us. Community matters.
I was gonna say that.
House of Precise. You know what I mean? We need to come together and get this fucking work done, man. We have to. Otherwise, this shit is dead. Because the opposition is unified. If you got people inside Congress that's gonna let you in the back door so you can beat the police to death with the American flag on TV, you unified. We need that type of fucking unification. We need to be able to put our personal shit aside. I can't put nobody's trauma aside. I can't tell you how much your trauma means to you, and I can't tell you how much you were hurt. But when it comes to the work, we need to work together even if we don't fucking like each other. You think
Thomas, I
MLK
agree.
didn't? You think MLK didn't do it? I mean, he ain't let it be known, but I guarantee you he did. I guarantee you he worked with a bunch of people he didn't like on a daily basis that didn't agree with him, that wanted to be violent. You said it yourself, Akari. I mean, he got people next to him, people, you know, of all different walks. We got to get this work done. That's what we got to do. I'm gonna leave it at that. I love every single one of y'all, and I appreciate this space.
Thank you. Thank you. Destiny or Sean, anything you guys have to say?
I just wanted to say that I wholeheartedly believe that we need to, I guess, with our intentions for 2021, we need to stand in that. Like last summer was a first for a lot of things, or a bunch of different organizations popping up. There were organizations that people didn't even know about. And they're like, wait, who's this? I don't even know who this is, and so on and so forth. So the fact that we are having discussions like this, and sometimes we meet people directly or indirectly, I feel like intentionally sharing those invitations, having those discussions, reaching out for whatever the case may be, especially in these difficult times that we are in now with the pandemic, with everything switching over to be virtual, we need to make sure that those mistakes that were made last summer, we don't make those mistakes again comes this summer. There's a lot of things that needs to be done. Like everyone has stated, there's a lot of work that needs to be achieved. The opposition are unified or whatever they want to be, or whatever the case may be, but that's not something that we need to worry about. We need to worry about ourselves and make sure that our community are prepared to tackle these different, just many different difficulties that we are facing. If one person does it, then we should be right behind them, standing with them. Not even behind them, we should be standing right alongside them and making sure that, hey, we are here for you, brother. We are here for you, sister. And for example, with the Black Trans Lives Matter event that happened, hosted by London and the House of Precise. Although I was there representing my organization, there should have been a lot more people there. And that's something that Elevate 518 and Community Matters and a couple of the other organizations make sure that we speak about, are the Black Trans Lives Matter. And with that also always being separated, we need to make sure that is unified, regardless of what, regardless of anything. We are one, we are unified. We are all the same. We are all fighting the same fight. So making sure that we all sit at the table with one another rather than trying to shut one person out. Oh yeah, Thomas, it's all right. Rather than shutting one person out or just saying, oh, I'm not gonna invite them for whatever the case may be. No, we all need to be invited. We all need to show up, regardless of what. Even if you can't come, is hey, sorry, I can't come, but let me slide you a couple dollars, whatever it may be. We need to make sure that we stand there for one another, especially now with COVID taking a toll in our community. We have to check on one another. We have to, and plan for the upcoming months, because it's a lot. Who knows what's to come with January 6th and inauguration being this week. We need to stand with one another.
Thank you. And I do appreciate that. Especially all that, you know what I mean? Like we need to take what we're good at. Like, you know, with me, I may be good at, community involvement, but Sean or Lamia may be more of like of the legislative type, you know what I mean? We take our strengths and then granted they may be separate, but then we bring them together. And I appreciate that. Sean, do you have anything you need to say?
Yeah. I actually, I do. And I'm going to, I guess lean on a lot of what I already heard. This idea, I think, one, it was really great to be on this call with you all. Mother Lamia, it's a blessing to meet you. So London J. Precise, so happy to be on this call and hearing your knowledge and wisdom and passion for this. And Destiny, it's a pleasure to always see you. I can't wait to see what I don't know what the final stage of your growth is, but I mean, just when you get older, had you grown in this work, like what you're actually able to achieve beyond this, like I look forward to that. And Thomas, you already know how we do, Vakari as well. I just want the idea of the collective effort, and how important that is to the work that we do, because we're actually we're working for our community, right? We're serving our community. We're trying to uplift the voices of our community because all of us are from our community, right? We know the stories in our community, the pain and trauma there, and we're trying to change that for people. because some of us may have made it in a situation where we diminish that pain and diminish that trauma somewhat, but there's so many others that are still in that space, and we're trying to at least clear the obstacles to opportunity for, and we all do it differently. We all have different angles and different approaches, and that's because white supremacy comes at us from every single angle possible. It is the system we all were born into. This system is not like, hey, it's only in the police department, or it's only at City Hall, or it's only in the hospitals, or it's only in the housing complexes. It is everywhere. It is imbued in every law. It is in every policy that's practiced. It is here every single day. It's on media, social media, news channels. It's there. If you look closely enough, you'll find it. And I'll be honest, we don't even have to look that close. Just pay attention to the biases. I think that Mother Lamia, you made a point to earlier on talking about the word unity and what that means as opposed to being diplomatic. And I want to add on to that because some of the, I think, struggle in our community is thinking about that word unity and what it actually means, as opposed to what we're being told, or this loftier ideal. Like for some people hear unity and it's like we got to be kumbaya and shaking hands and skipping down the street and and Black Lives Matter and we all just love each other and get along. And that's not true. Like we're people, we're human beings. We are going to disagree on so many different levels. What we always have to, I think, keep in the forefront of our mind is that we have a common enemy that oppresses us all, right? And whatever I can do, if I could work with you, we could have fought last week. But if I know that we can do something together to tear down this monster, like we're gonna do this together. We have a common enemy. Donald Trump being the embodiment of so much racism and so much of what's wrong with this country, right? Has unified, I think, many of us in the community that disagree with that type of stuff in a way that having a Biden may actually diminish. Because you get Biden in office, now you're like, oh, a lot of people are like, hey, things are going to go back to normal. Well, guess what? Normal was fucked up too. Like normal was kind of racist. Normal, there was a whole lot of people that was dying in the streets. Normal had healthcare, has my people still suffering ills from COVID-19, right? And other diseases that other people don't suffer from, right? That had us suffering in ways that has impacted us so much. I guess the point is, and there's so much more. I would love to say a whole lot more. I guess the point is that I am happy to be on this call. I want to share my contact information with you all. Vakara, you have it. You have my contact information. If you could please share that, and that so that we can begin to do what we're talking about, and that's work collectively together. We don't have to be doing the same thing, but goddamn, I can support. I can put the flyer up on my page. I can tell people I got a whole lot of people I email, hey, this is going on over here. Maybe you should go take a look at that and support that, right? If I'm just doing that, or I can show up, as Destiny put it. Just show up, just be there, right? Be there, show your face, show that you give a fuck, show that you care. If I can do any of that, I will. So please take my information, Vakari. Please share that with them, please, and reach out to me. Send me an email. Let's talk and let's do the work. 2021, we don't know what's going to happen, but I'm for sure here.
Thank you.
Can I just quickly say, first of all, thank you all for this encouragement tonight. I know that you've all felt it on an individual basis. As a leader, sometimes you feel a little isolated. And I mean, so many emotions, feelings, weight, and burdens come with being a leader and come with being a part of a project. And I needed this tonight. I also want to segue, and it's a weird moment, but I want to be transparent and say that I give credit to Mother Lamia because there was she's been pulling on my coattail for a long time. And there was a point in time where I was not willing to work together based on circumstances in the area and just me, like, I'm not with the shits. I don't have time for all the hoopla. And like, I'm just not that girl. I'm real simple. tell me what the mission is. Let's jump on it together and figure it out. And so when sometimes, you know, there are other parties involved and voices, you know, you get distracted from the actual goal at hand. But I will say, and Thomas, this addresses us being a part of what you, and I'm speaking now, I'm speaking on behalf of Mother Lamia, is that Thomas, we're more than willing to join and help and stand behind what you have going on. Lamia, I don't know if you saw that in the group chat, but go ahead and check out what he said. We've been doing this for a long time, a very, very, very long time. This is just another layer, another set of people. The amount of passion and knowledge, the amount of consistency that has come from this group of individuals that we're speaking to tonight, I'm so grateful for. And I want you to understand that me as an individual, including my House of Precise, as well as Precise Nation, we are on board 100% with every single thing that's going on. I'm not able, I know for a fact, and I'm not gonna act like I am able to make everything, because it ain't gonna happen. But I have representatives, my kids, I'm training in the right way. I have 4 of them who are right here on the landing strip, ready to take off. So please reach out to me. I share my information in this chat as well. You guys have been really doing some great work out here. And Sean, I agree with you that this is just the beginning for us coming together. And I'm really excited for what 2021 is going to bring for our communities. I think that it's going to be best together. And I can feel that in my heart. Vakari, thank you. I've known you, girl. I've been watching you a while, hun. And I appreciate the turn of events. I appreciate you putting your best foot forward and being sort of a mediator between a lot of different organizations. That's a good move. That's a good move, sis. That's a smart move. It's very healthy for our community. It is very healthy for your position right now. And I know you're not looking for name and lights, because that's not what it's about, but I do like to give credit where credit is due. So I want to thank you for playing that position right now and being exactly where you need to be. Again, I'm super excited to see where this is going to go, and you all have my full undivided attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thomas, go ahead, hun.
I just wanted to throw one more thing in as far as involvement in a very new organization that very little people know of, and that's Black Freedom Project, who is doing our best at supporting the work that other Black-led organizations are already doing. There's a report coming out soon in January that's going to be a roadmap for the state of New York. That's what the visioning sessions were for London. Sean, you participated in, I believe, 1 or 2 of the focus groups, and I leaned on Bakari for for both of them to try and get people. You know what I mean? But there are statewide calls. There's a steering committee. There are ways for all of these organizations who are Black-led. Destiny, I know you. I know. I already done. You already done been involved. You already been involved, and you're invited. We need more Black-led, Black-centered organizations. Let me tell you something. There is nothing but Black faces on this steering committee. There is nothing but Black faces doing this work. There is nothing but Black faces who are forging the statewide Breathe Act that we're about to be introducing. That's going to fill the gaps in police reinvention that they, really not trying to do. But what I'm saying is, this is all Black. This is us. We need to come together and be a part of this. I'm not just saying it because I'm a part of it. I'm saying it because this is real. This is what we've been looking for. This isn't a puppet with his hand up the back and the white man, moving the mouth and shit like that. No, this is us. These are educated, street, everybody coming together under one roof, seeing what it is that our people need and making sure it happens. I'm gonna hit all y'all with the next statewide meeting. I hope to see all y'all on it, because this is where we need to be. This is where we supposed to be, man. Black freedom as a project. I don't care what we doing individually. That's the goal. That is all of our goals.
Thank you.
Let that go.
Thank you.
Yes, Thomas. Thank you.
But I appreciate all of you for being on this call tonight.
Destiny, I love you.
We've been talking for a while, y'all. It's almost 8 o'clock. But I love y'all. I appreciate y'all so much. And of course, we will stay connected because this is what we do, right? And I will talk to y'all all soon. And thank you so much again. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for having us. Mwah.
Thank you.
Yes. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Yo, I'm so happy to be here. Can't wait. I look forward to what comes next.
Yes, sir.